Hello, everyone. This is From the Tips, BMW Championship Edition. I'm John Hasselbauer, golf writer for TheLines.com, and in this video, we will go through the second playoff event of the FedEx Cup playoffs, the final one before the Tour Championship. Before we kick it off, make sure you are subscribed to the Lines YouTube page right here. Check out my article in the link in the description, and make sure you are in the Discord, which is free and also linked in both the article and the bio or description of this video as well. That's where I post all my picks in real time, and that's where we discuss everything that's going on in the world of golf on pretty much a daily basis. So definitely a good place to be, and not only for golf, for all of the other sports year-round. Obviously, NFL is now starting to kick off just before we get to fall. We have dedicated channels within the Lines Discord for that as well. But let's talk golf. I did not watch a ton of FedEx St. Jude last week. I was in Montreal for my bachelor party. It was a great time. It took me a few days to recover. I am here now on Wednesday, feeling myself again, have my voice back. And so I don't really have too much analysis of what went down on last Sunday at FedEx. Obviously, interesting stuff, what's going on with Lucas Glover winning back-to-back, putting himself sort of in the Ryder Cup mix, but really feels like a little too late. A little bit of a heater, not necessarily sure a nice month constitutes a Ryder Cup pick when you have so many other options. But if he continues to play amazing and basically wins out this week and next, and he wins the Tour Championship, then I think you actually have to put him in. And he would actually pair up pretty well with Brian Harman. They're both kind of sort of southern dudes who have been underdogs their whole lives and had renaissance years this year. So that would be an interesting ball striking pairing, who apparently neither of them can miss a putt anymore. We'll see what happens. I'm actually starting to think that Justin Thomas's case is building, which is kind of pathetic that he missed the playoffs, but because Finau and Burns and Keegan are just doing absolutely nothing at the stretch of the season, it almost gives Zach Johnson no choice to pick anybody else over Justin Thomas. I still have Tony Finau in, though, but he hasn't really done a ton to help his case. This is a good course fit for him this week, so I would like to see a good outing from Tony Finau. I think he definitely deserves to be on the team, but a lot is very much up in the air, and this is a 50-man field, but it's really, I don't take too much out of the Tour Championship because it's staggered start and it's kind of hard to track who's playing well, who's not. So this might be the last opportunity for some people to make their final case before Zach Johnson locks up the team for towards the end of September. And after the Tour Championship, the fall schedule has still not been released, which is interesting. So we don't really know how much more opportunity there is going to be for players to teed up before going off to Rome. It's going to be interesting. I think it's very odd that we don't know what the schedule is going to look like in the fall. The format's changing, obviously. It's sort of a pre-season almost, a play-in situation where everybody outside of the top 70 is kind of vying for spots in signature fields and just general qualification for PGA Tour fields with the limited fields that will be in store for 2024. I do like that we're going to a calendar schedule. That's going to be less confusing, that the season starts in January 2022 and will end basically this time of 2022 or 2024. Sorry. So we'll see how that goes. I think we should expect to see some new venues in the fall swing, so will be fun to track that along while also double dipping on some football. So going to be a fun fall for sure. With all of that said, I think it's a good transition to go into the BMW Championship. And for this week, since this is going to post on Wednesday, I think I'll cut straight to the odds board here so that we can set the table with who is playing, who the favorites are by the end of the week, and who has the best chance to win. So if you see on the screen, it is Rory McIlroy and Scottie Scheffler who are co-favorites this week. Interesting to see Rory as a co-favorite. He's kind of been the second or third favorite in pretty much every event this year that him, Scheffler, and Rahm play in, but coming off a runner-up last week at the FedEx. Obviously, another course fit for him this week that's going to favor more of the longer hitters. He always seems to play well on softer courses, and Olympia Fields has gotten a ton of rain this week. So definitely going to play to his advantage, somebody who can carry the ball a mile and doesn't need to rely on the rollout of the fairway to get his distance off the tee. I would still take Scheffler heads up if that's a matchup this week. Not that I think Rory is going to play poorly, but I just think Scottie Scheffler is kind of leaps and bounds the best player right now. And obviously the putter is a concern, but it's not a putting contest this week. It's a tough grind. You don't need to make every birdie putt to gain on the field this week. And Scheffler's game is the best equipped for a difficult test. I would still continue to say that. After McIlroy and Scheffler, we have Jon Rahm, who won at Olympia Fields in 2020. I thought they would all be sort of grouped together, but there is some separation here with Rahm at double digits. That's a number that I consider betting, just given the fact that we've only seen Olympia Fields once. He won here, and he's still in pretty decent form and still a consensus top 3 player in the world. Interesting to see that some books are grading Rahm and Cantlay equal this week. Interesting setup here where you have BMW event history that Cantlay is for some reason incredible at. He's won the last 2 BMW championships at Caves Valley and then last year at Wilmington Country Club. But I don't believe he played Olympia Fields. If he did, he did not play it well. So from a course history standpoint, he should not be getting the premium that he is here. Obviously played great at the FedEx St. Jude last week and always plays well in the playoffs. But it's odd for me to see Cantlay and Rahm put together. I think this entire season it's been a big 3 and then Cantlay and Xander. And now all of a sudden, because of one good week from Cantlay, it's a big 4. I don't necessarily buy into that. So a Rahm over Cantlay matchup might be something to look into as well. And then Xander Schauffele, getting maybe a good value here at 18-1 is the best odds you can find him. As I said, it's always been Cantlay and Xander paired together at like this 16-1 number. He was not great at the FedEx, but never really plays well on those like pure Bermuda greens. This setup should be more his speed. So definitely like Xander in a buy low spot this week. I think that's a good value. Not one that I went after, but very interesting to see him dip as far as he has. And then you get more of a collection. I won't go through all of these names, but you get more of a collection of Hovland, Fleetwood, Hatton, Morikawa, Homa, Spieth, and Fowler, I would say, is sort of its own group. And I think most people will bet from this group. They'll want 1 to 2 players in the 18 to 30-1 range. That's definitely how I built my card. But if you're somebody who just wants to do a single bullet in a field of 50, take one of the favorites. I think that's a pretty viable strategy this week as well. So that is the field. Now we will go just a little bit to the course itself. So Olympia Fields definitely has the look and feel of a major venue. That is because it has hosted a U.S. Open and a PGA Championship 2 times each. So 4 total majors have been contested here. But we've only been here once since 2003, and that was the 2020 BMW Championship. In my opinion, that is the best finish to a tournament we've had since the COVID restart. It's kind of a shame that it was right in the middle of the COVID restart because there were no fans, no grandstands. It kind of had this like hollow atmosphere feeling, but it was like nice at the time to see live golf and see live sports in general. I think a lot of casual sports fans were watching that. And you couldn't have scripted a better finish. It was the OWGR number 1 versus the OWGR number 2 in a playoff. That was Jon Rahm and Dustin Johnson. Dustin Johnson hit, I want to say, a 50-foot bomb to force the playoff. And then in the first round of the playoff, Jon Rahm hit like a 70-foot ridiculous putt to, the reception of like 2 or 3 smatterings of claps. It's one of those moments that would have been like the biggest eruption in golf viewing history had it gone in, or at least for a PGA Tour event, not a major. And it get like a smattering of applause, and you hear Jon Rahm screaming as he should. Just a really cool finish, though, atmosphere aside. It's always great when a course rewards the two best players and you see them show down against each other. I really can't remember the last time we had a 1 versus 2 showdown since then. So this is the type of course that will force that. The cream should rise to the top in a difficult scoring venue like this. Just a quick about the course. It's just under 7,400 yards, par 72, par 5s, each of them over 600 yards. In soft conditions, they may not be reachable for anyone this week. I always say that, and then they push the tee boxes up, or somebody just hits it 350, 300, and they get there anyway. But we shouldn't expect a ton of eagles there. Birdies, on the other hand, the first hole is a 600-yard par 5, and it did play the easiest and the only hole to average more than half a stroke, or more than a tenth of a stroke under par. So by and large, every hole, aside from hole number 1, was averaging even par or worse. So it's a tough course. Fairways, like not impossible to hit fairways, but if you miss them, it's a big trouble in the rough. The greens were extremely firm and fast in 2020. They should be less firm with the amount of rain that they've gotten. So that may help with scoring a little bit this year, but -4 was enough to win in 2020 when we played Olympia Fields. It'll probably be more like -7, -8 this year, but I would definitely expect, since it's a fairly long par 70 with a bunch of long par 4s, not a lot of obvious scoring like birdie opportunity holes. I would definitely expect, and especially with a field of only 50 players, I would expect there to be single digits under par be the winning score. This is a no-cut event. It is just the 50 best players in the PGA Tour remaining. So everybody will be playing for 4 rounds, and they are all trying to get into the top 30 to get into East Lake. Honestly, it's hard for me to keep track of what the perks are of making it to East Lake versus being in the top 50 versus being in the top 70. It used to be that you can make your own schedule if you make it into East Lake, and you qualify for every event. I would assume that that's still the case this year, but I don't know what perks the players who miss out on the top 30 but were in the 50, what they still retain. So maybe that will become more clear when the fall schedule is released. But in any case, everybody wants to be in the top 30, so it should be good drama tracking who gets in and who does not for East Lake. Now, let's pivot it to the model for this week. Again, posting this on Wednesday, so I'm kind of going straight to the point with this preview. But in general, at Olympia Fields, you want scoring in difficult conditions, recent results in majors or other difficult comp courses, premium on total driving, so driving distance and accuracy with the driver. All the ball striking stats are important. Approach specifically from 125 to 175 was crucial last year, in 2020. And then bogey avoidance will obviously come into play here with so few obvious birdie opportunities, sometimes just scrambling consistently. Look at what Brian Harman did at the Open. That can be enough to win a golf tournament. So that is largely the broad key stats that I'm looking for this week. This first column, by the way, column F, this is comp course history, so total strokes gained on comp courses. And just to share a few, I'm looking at like Torrey Pines, Bay Hill, Quail Hollow. TPC Potomac is probably my favorite comp course to Olympia Fields, both par 70s with 2 par 5s that are over 600 yards. Difficult scoring conditions, soft scoring conditions, really, and difficult in spite of them getting a ton of rain, bent grass, and just like not a very close part of the country, but also not tremendously far part of the country, sort of like, I don't know, more north. So I really like TPC Potomac. Max Homa beat Cam Young, Keegan Bradley, and Matt Fitzpatrick at TPC Potomac last season. So something that I will definitely be looking closely at. I think Oak Hill works very well as a comp here as well, and other major venues like Bethpage and we mentioned like Torrey Pines and Quail Hollow. and the Country Club, the U.S. Open 2022, I think are all good. So that's kind of where my head is at, and I put my most weight on comp course history because the rough and the length and just the overall difficulty of the course will kind of give Olympia Fields its identity. After that, off the tee approach around the green, put them all individually with high weights, bogey avoidance, tee to green over a smaller sample size, proximity from 125 to 175. Anytime we're playing on difficult scoring conditions, I always look for par fours over 450. I want to say there are 7 of those this week, or if not, they're like 445 plus. So that's always an interesting, a pretty predictive stat, honestly. If you even just cheat and look ahead, like everybody, this isn't even a stat with that much weight, and everyone in the top 7 of my model is top 8 in par 4 450 plus. So I'm going to look pretty closely on that and make a lot of decisions off of that. This is putting on bent, driving distance, fairway accuracy, and putting total over the last 36. That is the model. So going into the model results, Scottie Scheffler's number 1. I didn't put a lot of weight on putting, and I think that's why there's just no question why Scottie Scheffler would come out number 1. He's the best off the tee approach around the green, tee to green. Ridiculous what he's doing this year. So obviously he would come out number 1. Patrick Cantlay, number 2. He was number 1 in my model last week at the FedEx St. Jude, and he almost won it. He very easily could have won it if Glover didn't have a couple 20-plus foot par saves down the stretch. So he comes alive in the playoffs. Not somebody I'm going to fade this week, even though the odds are pretty short. Victor Hovland won the Memorial. That was a comp course I forgot to mention, but that should translate well. If you can win the Memorial, you can absolutely win here. So he's number 3. Tyrrell Hatton coming off a disappointing showing at TPC Southwind, but he's number 4. McIlroy 5. Fleetwood number 6. Xander 7. Jordan Spieth number 8. John Rahm down here at number 9. That's a little surprising. Off the tee has been a little shaky recently, as has around the green. So that's interesting. He's been getting it all done with his approach, and he falls to number 9. And then Ricky Fowler number 10 in the model. Now let's pivot this once more to who I will be putting on my betting card. And we will. There we go. So a field of 50. Last week was a field of 70, and I bet 7 guys. I bet 10% of the field. This week I ended up doing the same. That was kind of a coincidence, but 50 players, 5 on my betting card. We have a 10% chance to win, all things being equal. I started my card with Tommy Fleetwood. He was number 6 in my model. I actually got him at 25 to 1 through enhanced odds on Bet Rivers. 25 to 1 feels short. I would argue in a field of 70, if you really double those odds, that's really what you would expect them to be in a full field. Since we're playing at basically a third of a normal size field and it's so densely concentrated at the top. Like we saw with Lucas Glover last week, I think the playoffs are where you buy high on somebody. I don't think you get surprised by somebody who's kind of limping to the finish and they all of a sudden find it in the last playoff event. I just want the guys who are playing the best. And Tommy Fleetwood has been on an insane tear. He's been in the top 10 in 5 of his last 6. He's really found something with his putting. You can see he's 8th in short game putting here, which I believe is on bent, or no, that's over the last 36. And okay, so on bent, it's not as great, but that's also longer term. In the immediate, he switched to that claw grip and he's gotten immediate dividends out of it. His ball striking has been phenomenal. And his driving, total driving, he hits his driver in the fairway. And he doesn't really give up distance. He's 23rd. He's above average in that as well. So he's doing everything you want to see from a player playing a major-like venue. And the form there's no question about the form. So I like that number. Hideki Matsuyama was 13th in my model. He was my featured spotlight player in my tournament preview. So you can read up for all the details on why I like Matsuyama this week in that preview article on thelines.com. I got him at 35 to 1, and I just think he's kind of trending towards a win. He's finished top 35 in 11 of his last 13 starts. So he's been solid. He hasn't really been in the stretch, in the mix down the stretch, but he's Hideki Matsuyama. He could definitely pop at any given moment. And I don't think the putter is completely lost either. I think he's kind of improving in that area as the year goes on. Max Homa was number 14th in my model. I got him at 28-1 in the enhanced odds as well. He is really trending as well. His last four starts ago, he finished T20 and then he went T12, T10, T8 or something. So he's definitely trending in the right direction. He's somebody who really does trend into his wins. Once he gets the ball striking figured out, it's so repeatable for him. And we've seen how great he is down the stretch. If you have a Homa outright ticket and he's in the mix, you kind of just expect him to close it out. I'm really chasing this TPC Potomac comp, and he won there. Everything that made sense for Homa on that venue seems like he can channel that here. Keegan Bradley's next. Actually got him at 70-1. Still like that number. Somebody who has won the BMW Championship before, played well at TPC Potomac, has played well in general on comp courses like Bay Hill and Torrey Pines. He actually finished runner-up to Max Homa at both Torrey Pines and TPC Potomac. So some sort of correlation between those two. Keegan's never putted better in his career than he's putting right now, and he's desperate to find a way on the Ryder Cup team. So I think he's going to be motivated and give it everything he has this week. And Adam Schenk, someone who's just kind of getting disrespected with odds. I think the entire season, his stats have been remarkable this year. He's top 10 on strokes gained approach. He's top 10 in driving distance. His weighted proximity 125 to 175 is also top 10. And he just generally kind of plays the difficult courses pretty well. I know he's popped for like 3 out of 4 rounds at Torrey Pines for the Farmers the last 2 years. Kind of showed up at the U.S. Open this year or last year too, which was a little surprising. So he plays well. It doesn't have to be birdie fest. His game kind of translates because of that driving distance that he's picked up. And he's just somebody who can really spike with the approach and putting and hit it far. And if you can do that, you can win pretty much anywhere. He's one of the longest odds available on the board. I don't think there's a bad bet that exists when you come down to the 50 best players on the tour season. There's only 50 players in the field, and you can get triple digit odds. If there's anything you like about them, I think it's worth it to pull the trigger. So I got him at 130, and I think I would definitely endorse that at anything 100 plus. Okay, so that is going to do it. Those are my 5 bets for this week. Quick week. Next week will be with sort of the last week of the playoffs, and definitely a shorter card. I might do 1, maybe 2 outrights and a couple specialty props. But other than that, going to be an interesting fall swing for sure. Looking forward to one of the last full normal weeks of golf this week. So that'll wrap it up here. Best of luck to all of you guys and your golf bets, and thank you as always for watching.